what we do in destination marketing is so much broader than just attracting visitors. I mean, we have such a huge opportunity to attract investment and jobs and talent to our area by enhancing the quality of life.
You guys, I have been working on something for the last 6 months that has been such a giant project, but I'm so proud of it. I'm excited to announce that I've just released my book. It's called Touch Points, and it's the Destination Marketer's Guide to Brand Evaluation and Enhancement. And it is a comprehensive guide for destinations to look at their brand, evaluate what you've done, and make a very clear and detailed plan of action of how to fix it. And look, I'm biased, right? Because I wrote it, but I think it's so good. I think it's a great guide, and I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. And I wanted to tell you guys about it. It's available on Amazon. Search Touch Points by Adam Stoker, and you'll be able to get that book for your destination. And I think it's going to be, especially for anyone that is trying to look at their brand holistically, this is the book for you. So check it out. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Destination Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Stoker. Once again, excited to be with you today. We've got a great show planned for you. We've got a friend of ours all the way from Alabama. His name is Rob Carnegie, and he's from Florence, Alabama. Rob, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Adam. It's really great to be here, part of this podcast today.
Yeah, we're excited to have you, and we've got a lot to talk about today. And you know, everybody's kind of navigating some unique challenges that we haven't encountered before, and it's going to be fun to hear how Florence is navigating that. But first of all, we have a couple questions we like to ask all of our guests that come on the show. And for you, I want to know, what is your dream destination, Rob? If you could go anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Well, I've always had a desire to go to Bora Bora, actually. I think I saw pictures of Bora Bora many, many years ago, and it was just some place that I thought that would always be cool to enjoy. Right there in the South Pacific, I think it's just near Tahiti, and just a place to just unwind, do nothing for a couple of weeks. I like the sun and the sand, and it'd be a great place, I think, just to enjoy.
Now, something tells me that when you think about that, you're picturing those overwater bungalows that they have out there.
That's exactly right. In fact, I think that's probably what motivated me when I saw that. It was just those little perched bungalows over the water, and just being able to wake up every morning. I think that I saw an episode of it as well too, and it just looks so relaxing. It's just somewhere I would love to go.
When you say you saw an episode of it, like you saw a kind of a travel show on TV talking about it?
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was one of those Nate and Kara. I don't know if you've ever followed them or seen them.
No.
They have sort of a travel episode or travel show that they do, and it's great. And so I think they were over there one time, and they had this little Segway that they were kind of going down the deck, the area that just kind of linked the dock, I guess it was, that linked the bungalows together, and it was just such a cool little spot.
Oh man, when I went to Fiji, I was choosing between Bora Bora and Fiji, and ultimately I chose Fiji. But Bora Bora, man, I did a lot of research on it, and it was a tough decision. Really glad I made the decision I made, because we had the trip of a lifetime. But Bora Bora looked so appealing to me. It was, in the end, I think what made me kind of decide not to was that everybody I had talked to said, well, the difference between Fiji and Bora Bora is that Fijians love tourists. and Bora Bora, I think, is controlled by the French. And I've heard that the reception of tourists is a little bit different there. And I think that was really the ultimate decision maker for us.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I guess I shouldn't detract you from going to Bora Bora, though. That's not the right thing to do here.
Well, it's on the bucket list, so I hope that one day we'll be able to get to Bora Bora.
Good. Well, tell me about your favorite trip you've actually been on. What's your favorite destination you've ever been to?
So it's tough because I think there's a couple. We've been to Vienna, Austria a couple of times, and Vienna was just incredible. If you've ever been there, obviously just the streets, just being able to meander through the city and to just enjoy, going into, a boutiques or a little pub or restaurant, and just walking around the city is just amazing. So we absolutely love Vienna, and I love Vienna. But we also went to Israel several years ago for a couple of weeks on a tour, and we had an amazing time actually in Israel, just touring the entire country. We had a guide, and that really, really helps as well. So Israel was just an incredible destination, and would love to go back there as well.
So those sound to me like two very different destinations. What was kind of the main standout in Vienna, and then give me the same for Israel?
Well, I think for Vienna, it was really it was the architecture, it was the culture, it was we felt incredibly safe in Vienna as well, too, when we were out at night and just enjoying the city. So that was just a beautiful experience. And you're absolutely right. The incredible amount of history, of course, in Israel, and being able to, float in the Dead Sea, or being.
Oh,
right.
You did that, huh?
Oh, absolutely.
What was that like?
That was pretty surreal. We had heard about that you sort of get in there and you just sort of float, and it's true. I mean, you're floating, but you're not, kind of floating where you just sort of see your head and the rest of your body is submerged. I mean, your body is kind of up above the level of the water, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty neat.
Wow.
And it's been several years since it was back, I think, in '98. So we're talking a long time ago, 22 years ago, that we were there. But just, a trip of a lifetime, and be also great to be able to go back to Israel sometime.
Oh, they both sound like amazing destinations. I've never been to either one, so just added both of those to my bucket list.
Fantastic.
The problem with asking this question on every show is I think my bucket list is like 5 lifetimes long now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Rob, let's learn a little bit about you. We know your travel habits now and what you like to do from a travel standpoint, but tell me a little bit about your background and how you ended up in tourism.
Well, absolutely. Travel's kind of followed me my whole life. I mean, I've lived in a few destinations as well, too, in terms of choices of where I wanted to live and work. How I got into tourism is that I've sort of got this other life as a singer-songwriter. And so I was living in South Florida at the time, signed to a small indie label down there. And when that ended, it seemed like the next best choice for us was Nashville, Music City, USA. And so we moved there in 2000 for the music industry. But like a lot of artists and musicians, songwriters, they got to fall back on something. And so I did that. I fell back on my education, and so I interviewed at the Convention and Visitors Bureau right there in Williamson County, which is Visit Florence now. I'm sorry, Visit Florence, Visit Franklin, and the Williamson County Convention and Visitors Bureau. And it was the CEO, the president at the time. We had a mutual friend who kind of introduced me to the president. And so I sat down for a job interview for the meetings market, the convention and meetings market. And by the end of the interview, Adam, I had a job as the director of sport tourism for the Williamson County CVB. So,
awesome.
The way that story goes is that throughout this conversation, we just had a great conversation, kind of like the one we're having right now. And it just sort of came up that I love sports, and I played a lot of sports, and was passionate about that. And so the CEO at the time said, I really would like to cultivate and develop a sport tourism council or division of the CVB. And that really became something exciting for me. So I was given the privilege and opportunity to create, at the time, the sport tourism arm of the CVB back then, which we named Team Williamson. And it was a lot of fun just to kind of build that and grow that and see that. And that's kind of where my tourism journey started.
Hey, Rob, I'm hearing that you're a fairly well-rounded person here. I'm hearing musical background. I'm hearing sports background. And I'm clearly hearing sales background because you started the interview with one thing and at the end started running a division of the sports division of the destination. I'm hearing a very well-rounded skill set there.
Well, I thank you. I appreciate that. I guess we're always trying to refine what we do and focus, on something. But, I just grew up playing sports and loved music as well. And so it was something that just sort of was introduced to me at that time of my life. And I've been in, I guess, the tourism industry now, probably going on about 18 years, and just absolutely love it.
Awesome. Now, I'm going to ask you a question that I'm pretty sure I already know the answer to, and we're going to be able to cut it out if the answer is no. But are you willing to share any of your musical talent with us on the show?
You mean like in the podcast version, like in sort of the live podcast?
I'll give you two
aspect,
options. You can either sing for us here in this moment, or we can post some of your music in our LinkedIn group that we have.
Yeah, no, I think maybe posting it. That's what every artist chooses, I mean, maybe not. I mean, I think that would be fun, but to play live. Here's the funny thing. I don't play out live a lot anymore. I mean, my
Really?
job, my family keep me really busy. Obviously, for the last 4 or 5 months, there's been nothing. But even previous to that, I do a lot more writing now and pitch stuff to artists in Nashville and that type of thing. But yeah, I mean, posting something would be great. And if I build
We'd
up
love to, if you don't mind.
Sure. No, that's absolutely fine. I mean, I'd be happy to do that. So thanks.
So for everybody that's listening, we have a LinkedIn group called Destination Marketers. We also have a Slack channel called Destination Marketers. You go in, you request access to both of those, and you're going to be able to hear our friend Rob Carnegie singing away. And I haven't heard it yet, so I'm excited to listen to it myself. Thanks for being willing to do that, Rob.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Maybe you want to hear it first before you post it.
I trust you. You were on that indie label.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thanks.
Well, Rob, it's fun to learn about you and how you got into tourism. I know that at Visit Franklin, that's where you met our mutual friend who's been on the show several times, Josh Collins.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Josh is a
must
great
have been
guy.
a lot of fun to work with Josh.
Well, believe it or not, I didn't work with Josh. So I was there in the early days. I was there at the first 5 years, 2000, sort of to the end of 2004.
Okay.
And so Josh probably didn't come along there until, gosh, I don't even remember when Josh started, but it was well after I had left. But yeah, we did share that place of work for a while.
Okay, no overlap then. I
No
guess
overlap.
I misjudged that timeline. Okay.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Well, Rob, tell me about Florence as a destination. What makes it unique and what makes it great?
So we have done a lot of brand development for what we call the Shoals. So Florence is part of a quad city area, which is made up of Florence, Muscle Shoals, Sheffield, and Tuscumbia. We're situated in northwest Alabama, right on the Tennessee River. And so, we have such a diverse product there, but it's such a close-knit area of communities and cities, so those 4 that I mentioned. And so for the longest time, people really refer to that area as the Shoals. And so we really took a new approach a couple of years ago to sort of redevelop our brand identity and brand marketing as the Shoals. And so I really refer to our area as the Shoals. But along with being, and I don't know if many of your listeners know this, but the hit recording capital of the world, back in the late 1950s and early 60s, a gentleman by the name of Rick Hall. And if you've seen the Muscle Shoals documentary, this will all make sense to you. And if you haven't seen it,
where can we find that documentary?
Well, it was on Netflix for a long time. We have DVDs, of course, in the Shoals at the Florence Visitor Center. So if anyone's really interested in it, we can connect them and probably either find a link or find where it is, whether it's on Prime or Netflix or something like that. It aired on Netflix for a long, long time. But I don't believe it's there anymore. But I certainly can connect anybody who's interested.
Well, we'd love to post a link, even if it's to where somebody can order it from your website or whatever. We'd love to post that in the Destination Marketers group as well.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great because we can certainly hook them up with a DVD and get them some more information. We also have a trailer that we can provide you too in your LinkedIn.
Ooh, yeah. Let's post the
space.
trailer and then we'll give people information on how to get to it.
Yeah, yeah. So just really quickly, the story of Muscle Shoals is that this gentleman, Rick Hall, started the music industry there, and his kind of very famous quote is that he wanted to be somebody. That's the quote from the movie that I took away, and he really achieved that because he started what was called Fame Studios, which stood for Florence Alabama Music Enterprises, which actually started in Florence. But then if you look at the sort of the storyline of his life and then all the studios, there's Muscle Shoals Sound, there's Fame Studios, there's Cypress Moon Studios, the Alabama Music Hall of Fame is in the Shoals, which is actually in Tuscumbia. And so there's just this rich music history, but also the fact that they're still making music there today. And the music scene is very vibrant as well in the Shoals.
Well, fitting that your musical talent would land you in a destination that has such a rich history of music and opportunity for tourism as it relates to music.
Yeah, I was very blessed, very fortunate to be able to do that. Not really looking for that, but it was just an added bonus for sure. To tell you kind of more about our area, I don't think I've ever been in an area where there's been a more diversified product offering than the Shoals. So on top of all of that, it's also the birthplace of W.C. Handy, who was the father of the blues, as you know, one of the most prolific songwriters in America. It's the birthplace of Helen Keller. Ivy Green is her birthplace home, which is also over in Tuscumbia. I mentioned the Alabama Music Hall of Fame is there. It's Alabama's only Frank Lloyd Wright structure. The Rosenbaum House is in Florence. We're home also to two international fashion designers or fashion icons, Billy Reed and also Natalie Channon, which are they themselves are just incredible influencers for our area and really bring a lot of attention to the area as well too. Billy actually does a festival every year, and unfortunately it was canceled this year, called Shindig. And this would have been number 11. And he brings in all of these fashion designers and music artists and chefs from all over the country. And it's 3 days of just music, fashion, and food, and has really become sort of a staple in the roster of events that we host in the Shoals as well.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, as well as the fact that we're right there on the Tennessee River. There are 3 lakes, Wilson, Wheeler, and Pickwick. We're a huge pro bass high school, college, tournament destination. We host about anywhere from 10 to 15 pro bass tournaments every year. There's great kayaking, hiking, bluff jumping, trail riding, and lots of green space. So it's an amazing destination.
And you can tell that you love the destination you're in, which I think is a critical part of working in those offices is if you're going to be a part of a DMO, you better love the place. And it sounds like you do.
Oh, that's true. I agree with you, Adam. And I do. I truly have fallen in love with the Shoals. There's so much here. There's so much potential. I think all destinations continue to grow and evolve and develop. And even for some of us that are sort of small to mid-sized, destination, there's always room for growth. And so I think that together, our destination and forming partnerships to develop the destination is important. So, it's a great place.
Well, great stuff. We're going to talk a little bit about how COVID affected your destination when we come back. We're going to take a short break and we'll learn all about that part of the process for you, Rob, in just a moment.
Sounds great.
Okay, everybody, we've been talking about recovery for a while now, and my team at Relic has been working on recovery campaigns for several destinations over the last couple of months. They've actually developed a pretty amazing we'll call it an algorithm, to know when it's safe to do acquisition marketing in a market. And so what I mean by that is you've got government regulations, you've got, how is the virus affecting that market, whether there's been a decrease in cases or a decrease in deaths in that market. When is it safe to advertise, hey, come to our destination? Like I said, our team has come up with this algorithm to provide that information for you, and we're offering a free market report. We're calling it Recovery Triggers. And if you'd like a free Recovery Trigger report for your target market where you want to draw visitors from, please email me directly at adam@relicagency.com, or you can go to recoverytriggers.relicagency.com and we'll get you set up with a free report, and we even have the ability to send you a weekly recurring report so you can see what's happening in that market on a weekly basis and make sure you're launching your acquisition campaign at the perfect time. All right, Rob, let's talk a little bit about COVID. You've got this wonderful, amazing destination in Alabama, and things are going great, and then COVID hits. Walk me through a little bit about your, kind of your emotional health throughout the process, and how you've responded to the crisis.
Well, sure. Well, I think probably like a lot of destinations, we began shifting and pivoting in different phases of our operations as new developments occurred, as new health orders came out, and how we sort of responded to that. I think that from closing our visitor center to begin working remotely from home, doing Zoom meetings, connecting with industry partners, reaching out to our hotel properties, and even broader than that, to just check in and make sure that people are doing well, and just what the status of their business was at that time. I think once we settled in, and after the shock of it all, I guess you could say, our main priority really became just communicating what businesses were open, with curbside and takeout, safety precautions that locals and visitors should be taking. I think we were fortunate that there weren't as many cases in our area, and weren't as high as, say, other larger metro markets. But of course, we felt the hit in all segments of our travel: meetings, groups, leisure. The one thing that we've been very, very fortunate is that the pro bass tournaments have pretty much stayed on course and stayed on schedule. There was a little bit of an interruption right there in March. We did have a couple that canceled. We actually had 13 tournaments booked this year, which is probably more than we've ever had. But we're going to retain about 10 of those, which is good. Which is really, really good. We feel very, very, very good about that. And but just to give you an idea, and I'm sure you've heard, from different destinations, kind of how much revenues were hit. But we were down 78%. Our revenues were down 78% in April, 48% in May, and 28% in June. So we're kind of moving in the right direction, but that low of 78% year over year, if you look at 19 versus 20, that was sort of the low point. And we're, still climbing out of that, trying to get back to, positive numbers.
Well, I know that in this process, Rob, you've done a lot of listening and research to make sure that you're making the right decisions for your destination. You told me about a few of those resources that you've been using. Can you tell me what they are and how you utilize them?
Yeah, and so many of these sources were fantastic. I mean, U.S. Travel Association, Brand USA, Destinations International, Destination Think were all extremely helpful and supportive. Even our own Alabama tourism department, the state of Alabama tourism department, and the weekly conference calls that we were having with our director, Lee Sintel, and his staff were all extremely important for us. And I think really, the biggest takeaway from that was the relevant content that each of these organizations was providing, to us almost on a daily basis. And I just have to, give big kudos and hats off to to Roger Dow and Tori Barnes from U.S. Travel, who have done so much and done such an amazing job by providing the industry with the most recent legislation passed, whether it's the PPP or the CARES Act or the HEALS Act. That's the most recent one. All the grant and relief funding programs, visitor sentiment reports, trends, best in class, what other destinations are doing, webinars, and just on and on and on. So we know that they're fighting hard every single day, for DMOs and small businesses to stay alive and to continue to really build, I guess, on the success of our industry, because it's a real success story.
Great. And I know that you, as you went through some of this listening process and learning process, you started to develop your recovery campaign. What has that process looked like for you? Well,
it really, of course, forced us to get very creative. I'm sure, like everybody else, rethink, reimagine. What does tourism look like on the other side of this? And so we did have a recovery, plan, programs in place. A lot of them focused around staycations, visiting friends and relatives, road trips. We're sort of a road destination. We don't have a major airport per se in our destination. So we were hoping for that. But we launched a program actually called Muscle Shoals Backstage Pass. And so to build upon, to capitalize upon being the hit recording capital of the world and the incredible story of music in our destination, and the one that continues to this day, it's a visitor value program where patrons receive discounts at several of the locations, and then learn about, of course, the recording studios and attractions that have made the Shoals famous. And so we created this really cool looking backstage pass and lanyard. So for any of you, any of the country music fans that you might have out there, if you've been to CMA week, a lot of times you'll see these big, oversized badge and lanyards, kind of done in a very hard plastic or an acrylic, almost a keepsake, something that you would hold on to. And so we created one of those where we give away swag and T-shirts after you visit 3 of the 6 destinations, and then an opportunity to enter our grand prize, which we'll announce at the end of the year if you visit all 6 attractions. And so it was really a way for us to just rethink and reimagine, of course, just what we have. And just kind of going back, Adam, to what I mentioned earlier about development and investment and partnerships in the community. A lot of times, if there's not development that's happening, if there's not bricks and mortar or new festivals and events that are kind of popping up in your community, you start to have to think about how do you get creative, and how do you curate experiences and various things that the visitors can do. And so that's where the Muscle Shoals Backstage Pass came from.
Yeah, that's one thing that I love about what you guys did is not only did you come up with a recovery campaign that was true to your brand, right? By combining these 6 music studios together as places for people to visit and patronize. But on top of that, you're using your ability as a destination to support these businesses and kind of keep them going during such a difficult time. One of the things that I've talked a lot about here on the show is the critical responsibility that destinations have right now to make sure that the businesses that keep their visitor experience great, or that make it great, are still around when this is all over. And I feel like your recovery campaign was constructed in such a way that it really contributes to that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I think this term of being a DMMO is something that is very commonplace out there, that you're not only a marketing, but you're a management organization. And you're part of that is curating these experiences and helping visitors to better understand and navigate their way through your community. And I think this is really sort of an attempt of that. But we've seen some neat, quick success from this. So we did a small run, but we've gone through half of our passes already within about 2.5 weeks. And so hopefully we'll have to reprint here in just a short period of time. We've kind of carved this out in seasons. So this is the first season. of Muscle Shoals Backstage Pass. It'll end December 31st, 2020. And then we'll have our grand announcement for our grand prize winner in early January. And then we'll launch another season of Backstage Pass at that point. So it'll kind of operate in that fashion and format.
So you see this program becoming evergreen and kind of being a part of your campaign for a long time.
Absolutely. I mean, it's we did a lot of research and we talked to all of the partners. We spent a lot of time in the creative aspect of it. Looked at some best in class, around the country in terms of some visitor value programs that look like this, and felt like that once we launched this, that this would be something that would be hopefully around a very long time.
Yeah, a crisis is always scary, and it's always a hard thing to go through. But if there's one thing I'm seeing as I talk to destinations all over the world, people are getting so creative and innovative that they're creating programs that they never would have created before, but now they're sticking with them. So essentially what it's caused is everybody had to kind of bear down, get creative, and now you have new programs you'll benefit from, even when things get back to whatever this new normal becomes.
That's right. Yeah, it forces you a little bit to really think outside of your boundaries, sort of what are the traditional or conventional methods of what we typically do. We all have our safe markets, leisure, corporate meetings, group, media relations, and on that we work in. And so, but this was a fun experience, and you're right. It's something that I think will end up being something that we'll keep forever.
Awesome. Well, let's get tactical. Let's talk about how you decided what tactics to scale back, what to keep running, and what do you feel like that looks like moving forward?
Well, boy, I guess I'd probably say to that is that almost everything came to a halt, within about the first 2 weeks, when we knew that this was going to be sort of a long-term virus with sort of no end date to it. We had been running a digital ad campaign with our agency over the last 24 months in 4 major drive markets in Tennessee and Georgia, and then the greater portion of Alabama outside of the Shoals, which just all came to a stop, and that was frustrating because we felt like we really had built some momentum with that campaign. We had started a small social media campaign at the beginning of the year with our agency, which stopped as well. And so everything went very organic, either low cost or no cost initiatives. And I guess some of those campaigns that were higher dollar campaigns just kind of made it easier in terms of what we had to eliminate and what we could keep. But I think it was just sort of looking at that objectively and just using kind of common sense in that respect.
Awesome. Have you made any mistakes along the way, Rob, that stand out to you that you're like, man, I wouldn't do this the same way next time?
Oh, sure. Lots.
We all have them, right?
Yeah, we all have. Now, are you speaking in relationship to the Backstage Pass program, or are you just talking in general?
This is more like COVID hits. Oh, I could have handled that a little bit different. You know what I mean? Was there anything you learned that maybe if we end up in another crisis, and we see that these pop up every 8 to 10 years, right? You had, September 11th of 2001, the travel industry had a big crisis during the market crash of 2007, 2008. And then 2009 was more of the aftermath, but that was a big bane to the industry. And then of course, COVID, was there anything that you saw that now, for next time you'll do it differently?
Yeah. Well, I think that I believe, and like we all believe, we're going to come out on the other side of this. And so I think, as much as we tried to keep a very positive message in front of our audiences and our industry partners, I think I probably would have spent a little more time in that respect. Just again, kind of building up our audiences. Just assuring them that we're working on plans. We're in the process of doing this. It was just strange because you really just were limited, and we've all been on so many Zoom meetings that we never want to see Zoom again, but they work. I mean, it's what we have to do. But I think there's probably some things like that, just in terms of communication, that maybe we would have done a little differently.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. We all find those things, right? I mean, I know that as I've approached this crisis, there's been several things that I would have done differently, but I think all of it is just building and building and building and making us more experienced and prepared for whatever gets thrown at us as time goes on. I want to change directions a little bit because you told me about something in our previous call that I just got such a kick out of, and it's called Operation Drumstick. Now, I know that you haven't, spearheaded this program or been super involved, but I just thought it was such a cool thing that's happening in your destination. Can you give us kind of the general overview of what that is?
Yeah, and it truly, Adam, was a success story within itself, and I think it's somewhat is continuing to this day. But there was a gentleman in our community, a musician, that plays on several sessions, here at different studios. He's a saxophone player. His name's Brad Gwynn, and I believe it was him and maybe a few others that decided to start this campaign, this initiative called Operation Drumstick, which was all about being able to create gardens and planting produce and an assortment of vegetables to help feed the music community, the musicians and the artists, some of them that are so dependent, of course, upon music as for their livelihood. And of course, with live music and a lot of recording sessions being put on hold, a lot of them were just in a bad spot. And so this guy, was constantly just out there cultivating and prepping these gardens. And so he just, and I believe that there were several publications, magazines, news outlets that picked up on this story and interviewed him, and it was all over Facebook. It really just became an incredible, benevolent success story, for our community, and that's really the idea of it. And I know we talked a little bit about sort of an agritourism angle to this. We haven't really explored that yet, but I think that it might be something that's worth for us to take a look at.
Yeah, maybe an opportunity for future tourism as time goes on. Very cool program, and it's always fun to see the stories of people giving back, especially at a time like this. And really, that's such a cool, and what a catchy name, Operation Drumstick.
That's right. Yeah, it was great. And I know Brad, and I've talked to him a few times, but I'm really looking forward. He's probably so busy now that he's got this other job, being a farmer. And I've seen pictures of him on Facebook out on his tractor and tilling the land, and so I know he's got a full plate, and no pun intended, but he is doing a great job with that.
Great stuff. Well, Rob, this has been a lot of fun. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you feel like would benefit our audience?
Well, I was thinking about that, and Adam, I think the one thing that I just would want to encourage all of my peers and just the industry at large across our nation, to your audience, to read is a report that came out last year by U.S. Travel, and you might be aware of it. It's called "Made in America: Travel's Essential Contribution to Economic Development." And if you've never read it, I'm happy to send you a link. And if you like it, you can throw it up on LinkedIn as well. But I actually have the hard copy here. I probably look at this study, this report, at least probably 3 or 4 times a month or more. I actually created a report and a presentation that I did for our tourism town hall last year. With it, I've made presentations to city council and to our county commission by using the resources and the information in it. But it is, I don't know how many pages it is. It's probably 50 or 60 pages, but it's just chock full of case studies of destinations that have done things right, and talking about how what we do in destination marketing is so much broader than just attracting visitors. I mean, we have such a huge opportunity to attract investment and jobs and talent to our area by enhancing the quality of life and leveraging what we do as storytellers in our destination. So I would just encourage everyone, if they don't have Made in America, Travel's Essential Contribution to Economic Development by U.S. Travel, it is one of the best. Now, they did put one out in 2020, which was all around workforce development and jobs. But in my opinion, the one from 19 is the very, very best. It's amazing.
That is an incredible resource for our listeners, and we'll definitely post that in the LinkedIn group. What a great piece of information to share. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Well, this has been a blast. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing some of your time and experience with us today. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks so much, Adam.
Awesome. Well, this has been another episode of the Destination Marketing Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to leave us a rating or a review on whatever platform you're listening to the show on. It really helps us to continue to grow the show, grow our listener base, and keep this great content coming your way. So thanks everybody for listening, and we'll talk to you next week. Okay, everybody, we've been talking a lot over the last couple of months about recovery campaigns and what that looks like. And the coronavirus has really thrown so many of us for a loop. If you have found yourself struggling to know how you're going to plan your recovery campaign, or if you're not sure if you've got the right plan in place, my team has been putting together these recovery campaigns for several destinations. We would love to take that opportunity to provide one for you. If you're interested in getting some guidance for your recovery campaign, whether it's just for us to take a look and give you some high-level recommendations, or if you're looking for someone to help you see it all the way through, we'd love the opportunity to take a look. If you're interested in having us take a look and help you come up with the right recovery campaign, please email me directly at adam@relicagency.com and we'll get you set up.